Hello, and welcome. In today's story, we delve into one of the most famous unsolved hijacking cases in U.S. history, D.B. Cooper. This individual hijacked a plane in 1971, parachuted from it with ransom money, and seemingly vanished without a trace. Despite decades of investigation, his identity and fate remain undetermined. This narrative is based on publicly available documents, media interviews, and FBI records. The details of D.B. Cooper's earlier life are speculative at best, as no one has conclusively identified who he really was. Rumors and theories are clearly noted as unverified. Viewer discretion is advised when discussing potential crimes and unresolved mysteries. The hijacker bought a ticket under the name Dan Cooper, though the media erroneously referred to him as D.B. Cooper. No verified information about his background, upbringing, or true identity has been established. Over the decades, multiple suspects have been floated, but no definitive match has emerged. The lack of concrete personal details about Cooper's past stands as one of the major reasons this case remains unsolved. Some investigators theorize Cooper may have had a military background or parachuting experience, citing the demands he made and the manner in which he jumped from the aircraft. Others suggest he could have been an experienced skydiver, or simply someone who read about parachuting techniques. Witnesses described him as calm, polite, and well-spoken, far from the typical portrayal of a desperate criminal. He dressed in a neat business suit and displayed no visible panic, because all aspects of his personal life remain unknown. The earlier life of D.B. Cooper remains a mystery, constructed by rumor, psychological profiling, and guesswork. On November 24, 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper purchased a one-way ticket for Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 from Portland, Oregon, to Seattle, Washington. He took seat 18C. Some sources say 18E or 15D, but 18C is commonly cited. Ordered a bourbon and soda, and quietly waited for the flight to take off. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner, indicating he had a bomb in his briefcase. Initially, she slipped the note into her pocket without reading it, assuming it was a phone number from a passenger. Cooper then leaned in, clarifying, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb inside the briefcase." He showed wires and colored sticks, convincing her and eventually the pilots that his threat was real. Cooper demanded $200,000 in ransom, 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve, and a fuel truck on standby in Seattle to refuel the aircraft. Flight 35 circled the Seattle area for several hours, allowing local law enforcement and airline officials time to gather the money and parachutes. Passengers were unaware of the exact nature of the emergency, but tension built as the plane stayed in the air. Upon landing in Seattle, Cooper traded the 36 passengers for the ransom money and parachutes. He kept a few crew members on board, instructing them to take off again and head toward Mexico City. After receiving his ransom and the requested gear, Cooper instructed the crew to fly at a low altitude, around 10,000 feet, and slow airspeed. He also wanted the rear air stair to remain lowered, an unusual request. The flight path set toward Reno, Nevada, as a potential refueling stop on the route to Mexico City. In the dark, amid poor weather conditions over the southwestern Washington wilderness, Cooper lowered the rear air stair and jumped from the plane, ransom money in tow. By the time the crew realized he was gone, the plane was still in flight. He left behind only a tie-tie clip and 2 of the parachutes. Once on the ground, FBI agents and local law enforcement conducted a massive land and air search near the projected drop zone around the Lewis River, or Ariel area, in southwestern Washington. Rough terrain and inclement weather hampered efforts, and no sign of Cooper was found at that time. Investigators recovered Cooper's clip-on tie clasp, and 8 filter-tipped Raleigh cigarette butts from the aircraft. FBI labs tried to pull fingerprints, DNA, or other forensic evidence, Partial prints were lifted, but they never led to a confirmed identity. In February 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram found $5,800 in decomposing bills on the banks of the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington. These bills matched the serial numbers from Cooper's ransom money. This find, known as the Tenenbaum money discovery, intensified speculation but yielded no definitive conclusions about Cooper's fate. Nicknamed Noryak for Northwest Hijacking. The FBI investigation spanned over 45 years, making it one of the longest and most exhaustive cases in the Bureau's history. In July 2016, the FBI announced it was redirecting resources away from the Cooper case, effectively suspending active pursuit unless new evidence surfaced. The main question remains: did D.B. Cooper survive the jump? Many argue the jump was too dangerous, bad weather, nighttime conditions, and unprepared terrain. They propose Cooper likely died in the wilderness. Others believe the meticulously planned hijacking suggests advanced preparation, thus a decent chance he survived. Notable suspects in this case: Richard Floyd McCoy, arrested for a similar hijacking months later, but had an alibi for November 24, 1971, making him an unlikely match in the FBI's view. Dwayne Weber, on his deathbed. He allegedly confessed to being D.B. Cooper. The FBI tested his fingerprints and DNA against the hijacking evidence, but found no match. Barbara Dayton, a transgender woman and recreational pilot who allegedly confessed to friends to have been Cooper in disguise. This claim lacks substantial evidence. Robert Rackstraw, a colorful suspect who had a military background. Despite media hype, the FBI never produced conclusive proof linking him to Cooper. Some theories speculate Cooper was part of a larger criminal plot, or that he was a covert operative. Others suggest a more mundane outcome. He survived, lived quietly under another identity, and never spent the ransom money publicly to avoid detection. Over the years, multiple documentaries, books, and even comedic references in TV shows have portrayed Cooper as a sort of folk anti-hero, a suave outlaw who outwitted authorities. The mythos often overshadows the very real possibility of a fatal end in the wilderness. In 2016, the FBI announced they would no longer actively investigate new tips unless compelling physical evidence emerged, like DNA, the parachutes, or the remainder of the ransom. This official closing of the investigation does not mean the mystery is solved. It remains an open question in American criminal lore. The Cooper hijacking, along with similar air crimes of that era, prompted significant shifts in airport security and aircraft modifications. For example, the addition of the Cooper vane, a mechanical latch preventing the rear air stair from being lowered mid-flight. His case also played a part in pushing the government to tighten baggage checks and passenger screenings, shaping the modern face of aviation security. D.B. Cooper remains an enduring icon of American pop culture, featured in songs, movies, and countless investigative articles. His legend symbolizes the allure of an unsolved puzzle, where the final answers slip through the fingers of even the most determined investigators. To this day, no one knows who D.B. Cooper really was, whether he survived that fateful jump, or where most of the ransom money ended up. The case endures as the only unsolved air piracy event in U.S. commercial aviation history, spawning vast speculation among crime enthusiasts, amateur sleuths, and professional detectives alike. If you enjoyed this exploration of D.B. Cooper's remarkable story, please like, share, and subscribe. By keeping these historical mysteries alive, we encourage continued curiosity and respect for the investigative process. Perhaps one day, new evidence or confessions may finally close the book on the man who hijacked a plane, jumped into the night, and left the world guessing.